Hannah Kim sat in the back row of the xenobiology classroom, her notebook open and her pen moving steadily across the page. Around her, aliens of every shape and size filled the lecture hall. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like they were made of living crystal. She had stopped being surprised by the variety of life forms 3 months ago when she first arrived at the Galactic Collegiate Institute. Professor Qualinus stood at the front, her forearms gesturing as she explained the concept of planetary classification. The professor was a Quellan, a species known for their multiple limbs and exceptional teaching abilities. Her voice was soft but clear, reaching every corner of the large room. Class 12 Deathworlds are the most dangerous planets known to support complex life, the professor said. Her upper left hand pointed to a holographic display showing a blue and green planet. Earth is one of only 7 Class 12 worlds we have discovered. The survival rate for most galactic species on such planets is less than 48 hours. Whispers started immediately. Hannah felt dozens of eyes turned toward her. She kept writing, pretending not to notice. This happened every time Earth came up in class. She was one of only 5 human students at the entire university, and everyone seemed fascinated by where she came from. "It's hard to believe," a voice said from the middle of the room. "She doesn't look dangerous at all." More whispers. Hannah's hand paused on the page, but she didn't look up. "The humans are Deathworlders," another voice added. "My parents said their planet tried to kill them every single day, and they just adapted." "I heard they eat poison for fun," someone else whispered. "I heard they can break bones and keep fighting." Professor Qualinus cleared her throat with all 4 lungs, creating a sound like wind through a canyon. The class fell silent. Let us remember that species diversity is to be celebrated, not feared. Miss Kim is our guest and our fellow student. Please show respect. Hannah appreciated the professor's words, but she knew they wouldn't stop the stares. They never did. The lecture continued for another hour. When it ended, students began packing their belongings and filing out of the room. Hannah took her time, organizing her notes carefully. She preferred to let the crowd thin before trying to navigate the hallways. At 5 feet 4 inches tall, she was smaller than most of the aliens here, and getting caught in the rush was uncomfortable. "Deathworlder." The voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. Hannah looked up to see a Velthran standing beside her desk. She recognized him from class. His name was Tarvik, and he sat in the front row, always answering questions with confidence. He was tall, maybe 7 feet, with dark green scales covering his body and amber eyes that seemed to glow in the classroom lighting. "That's what they call you," Tarvik continued. "But I don't see it. You look weak, soft." Hannah closed her notebook slowly. "Can I help you with something?" "I'm tired of the whispers," Tarvik said. "Tired of everyone acting like humans are something special. You're just another species, probably weaker than most, based on your size." Other students had stopped leaving. A crowd was forming around them. Hannah could feel the attention of dozens of beings focused on this conversation. "I never said I was special," Hannah replied calmly. "Then prove it," Tarvik said. He crossed his muscular arms over his chest. "I challenge you to a standing endurance contest. It's a traditional Velthran test. Very simple. We both stand in marked circles. No sitting, no kneeling, no leaving the circle. The last one standing wins." He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Unless you're too weak to accept." The crowd murmured with excitement. Hannah saw students pulling out their communication devices, probably already spreading the news across campus. She thought about declining. She could walk away right now, and this would all blow over in a few days. But she knew it wouldn't. If she backed down, the whispers would only get worse. Not just about her, but about all humans. About Nari and Jinho and Yuna and Daesung, The other human students who had come so far from home to study here. They deserve better than to be seen as weak or afraid. Okay, Hannah said simply. Tarvik's smile widened. Excellent. Tomorrow, in the central courtyard, dawn, the whole campus can watch the Deathworld fall. One question, Hannah said. Is there a time limit? Tarvik laughed, a sound like grinding stone. No time limit. We stand until one of us can't anymore. Why? Having second thoughts already? No, Hannah said. She picked up her bag and slung it over her shoulder. Just wanted to make sure. See you tomorrow. She walked past Tarvik and through the crowd of students. Behind her, she could hear excited chatter in a dozen different languages. News of the challenge was already spreading like wildfire. Hannah made her way across campus to the human dormitory, a small building set aside for the 5 Earth students. It was the only place on campus where the gravity was set to Earth standard instead of the lighter galactic standard. Her legs felt heavier with each step as she approached, but it was a good kind of heavy. Familiar. Now, I was in their shared room when Hannah arrived, lying on her bed and reading something on her datapad. She looked up when the door opened. Hey, Nari said. How was class? Interesting, Hannah replied. She set her bag down and sat on her own bed. I got challenged to a contest. Nari sat up quickly. What kind of contest? A standing contest. Some Velthran guy named Tarvik. We stand in circles until one of us gives up or falls down. And you accepted? Nari's eyes were wide. I did. Hannah, you know you don't have to prove anything to these people, right? You can back out. Nobody would blame you. Hannah shook her head. If I back out, they'll see it as weakness. Not just in me, but in all of us. We're representing Earth here, Nari. We're the first humans most of these aliens have ever met. What we do matters. Nari was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, when is it? Tomorrow at dawn. Central courtyard. Then, we should get you ready, Nari said, standing up. Do you know anything about Velthran endurance? Not much, Hannah admitted. Let's find out, Nari said, opening her datapad. If you're gonna do this, we'll make sure you win. Hannah smiled at her roommate's determination. She looked out their window at the alien sky, at the 3 moons hanging above the horizon. Tomorrow she would stand in that courtyard and show the galaxy what a human could do. Not because she wanted to show off. Not because she wanted attention. But because sometimes the only way to earn respect was to prove you deserved it. She thought about her grandmother back in Bizin, who used to say that standing firm was its own kind of strength. Tomorrow Hannah would stand, and she would keep standing no matter how long it took. The news spread across campus faster than Hannah expected. By dinner time, every student in the Galactic Collegiate Institute seemed to know about the challenge. When she walked into the dining hall with Nari, conversation stopped. Aliens stared at her openly, some with curiosity, others with concern, and a few with what looked like pity. Hannah filled her tray with food and found a quiet table near the window. Nari sat across from her, along with Jinho Park and Yuna Lee, 2 other human students. Everyone's talking about it, Jinho said. He was tall for a human, almost 6 feet, with broad shoulders and a kind face. Half the campus thinks you're crazy. The other half is placing bets. Bets? Hannah asked, raising an eyebrow. The odds aren't in your favor, Yuna added. She was small and thin, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. 3-1 against you. Velthrans have a reputation for physical contests. Tarvik specifically has won standing meditation competitions that lasted 14 hours. 14 hours, Nari repeated. That's a long time. It is, Hannah agreed. She ate her rice slowly, thinking. But it's not impossible. You really think you can beat him? Jinho asked. Hannah looked at her 3 friends. They all looked worried. I think I have to try. For all of us. After dinner, Hana and Nari returned to their room. Nari had spent the afternoon researching Velthran biology and physiology. She pulled up files on her datapad and showed them to Hana. Velthrans are ambush predators, Nari explained. On their home world, they hunt by waiting motionless for hours, then attacking with explosive speed and strength. Their muscles are built for short bursts of intense activity, so they're good at standing still, Hana said. For a while, yes. But look at this. Nari swiped to another file. Their cardiovascular system is designed differently than ours. They have a 3-chambered heart instead of 4. It's efficient for their hunting style, but not for sustained activity. Hana studied the diagrams. What about their home world's gravity? 0.85 Earth standard, Nari read. Lighter than Earth, heavier than this station's standard gravity. Hana nodded slowly. Pieces were starting to fit together in her mind. So he's been training in lighter gravity than I'm used to. Exactly, Nari said. And humans? We're different. We're endurance hunters. Our ancestors chased prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We didn't need to be fast. We just needed to keep going. Hana thought about this. She remembered history lessons from school, learning about how early humans hunted antelope across the African savanna. The antelope were faster, but humans just kept following, walking and jogging, never stopping. Eventually, the prey animal would overheat and collapse. Persistence hunting, the teachers called it. What should I do to prepare? Hana asked. Nar, I thought for a moment. Nothing extreme. Get a good night's sleep. Eat a solid breakfast. Stay hydrated. Your body already knows how to do this. Trust it. That night, Hana lay in bed thinking about Earth. She thought about summers in Bizen, standing in lines that stretched for blocks during festivals, the heat pressing down like a weight. She thought about hiking in the mountains with her grandmother, her legs burning as they climbed higher and higher. She thought about winter mornings waiting for the bus, standing in the cold for 20 minutes or more. Earth had prepared her for this without her even knowing it. Across campus. In the Velthran dormitory, Tarvik was also preparing. But his preparation was very different. He stood in a meditation chamber, a room designed specifically for Velthran physical training. The gravity was set to match their home world. Dim lights created shadows on the walls. Tarvik stood in the center of the room, perfectly still, his breathing slow and controlled. His friend Kresh sat nearby, watching. Kresh was shorter than Tarvik but broader, with darker scales. You've been standing for 6 hours, Kresh said. That's enough for tonight. I want to make sure I'm ready, Tarvik replied without moving. You're ready. You've been training for this kind of thing your whole life. Kresh paused. But are you sure about this challenge? The human might surprise you. She's tiny, Tarvik said. And soft. Look at humans. No scales, no natural weapons, no armor. They're fragile. They survived at Class 12 Deathworld, Kresh pointed out. So did lots of other species. It doesn't mean they're physically superior. Tarvik finally moved, rolling his shoulders to loosen his muscles. Tomorrow, the whole campus will see that humans aren't special. They're just another weak species that got lucky with their evolution. Kresh didn't look convinced, but he didn't argue further. The next morning came quickly. Hana woke before her alarm, feeling surprisingly calm. She showered, dressed in comfortable athletic clothes, and ate a breakfast of rice, eggs, and fruit. Nari sat with her, quiet and supportive. Remember, Nari said as they prepared to leave, it's not about fighting your body. It's about working with it. Listen to what it tells you. I will, Hana promised. They left the dormitory as the first sun was rising over the campus. The air was cool and fresh. Hana took deep breaths, filling her lungs, preparing herself mentally. The central courtyard was already filling with students when they arrived. Word had spread throughout the entire campus. It seemed like half the student body had come to watch. Hannah saw faces from dozens of species, all curious about what would happen when a Deathworlder faced a Velthran warrior. Professor Qualinus was there, along with several other faculty members. Medical staff had set up stations on both sides of the courtyard, ready to help if needed. 2 circles had been marked on the ground with bright white paint, about 20 feet apart. Tarvik arrived moments later, surrounded by other Velthran students. They were chanting something in their language, a war song maybe. Tarvik looked confident, almost cocky. He wore traditional warrior garb, his scales polished until they shone in the morning light. When he saw the crowd, he raised his arms and roared. His supporters roared back. Hannah watched this display without emotion. She understood what he was doing. He was trying to intimidate her, to make her doubt herself. It wouldn't work. Professor Qualinus stepped forward, her 4 arms spread wide to quiet the crowd. "The rules are simple," she announced, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "Both contestants will stand in their marked circles. They cannot sit, kneel, or leave their circle. They may drink water provided by assistants, but they cannot eat. The last one standing wins. Medical staff will monitor both competitors for safety. Do both contestants understand?" "I understand," Tarvik said loudly. "I understand," Hannah said quietly. "Then take your positions." Hannah stepped into her circle. The white paint was bright against the dark stone of the courtyard. She found the center and planted her feet, shoulder-width apart. She let her arms hang naturally at her sides. She rolled her shoulders once, twice, then settled into stillness. Tarvik stepped into his circle. He took a warrior's stance, legs spread wide, arms crossed over his chest, head held high. He looked like a statue, powerful and immovable. The crowd fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Professor Qualinus looked at both contestants. "Begin," she said. The standing endurance contest had started. The first hour passed in silence. Hannah stood in her circle, breathing steadily, her eyes focused on a point in the distance. She didn't look at Tarvik. She didn't look at the crowd. She just existed in the moment, feeling the ground beneath her feet, the air moving across her skin, the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. Around them, the crowd watched with intense interest. Some students had brought chairs. Others sat on the ground. A few had recording devices, capturing the contest to share with friends who couldn't attend. Tarvik stood like a statue in his warrior pose. His scales gleamed in the growing sunlight. His amber eyes stared straight ahead, unblinking. He looked powerful and unmovable, exactly as he wanted to appear. But Hannah wasn't trying to look powerful. She was just being comfortable. After 2 hours, some students started to get restless. This wasn't as exciting as they'd hoped. Both contestants just stood there, not moving, not speaking. A few people left to attend classes, but most stayed, knowing that patience was part of the contest. Nari sat near Hannah's circle with Jinho and Yuna. They had water bottles ready, in case Hannah needed them. Nari watched her friend carefully, looking for any signs of struggle. But Hannah's face was peaceful, almost meditative. On the other side, Kresh watched Tarvik with growing concern. He could see small signs that others might miss. The slight shift in Tarvik's weight. The way his breathing had become a bit deeper. The faint change in his scale color, from bright green to a slightly duller shade. These were Velthran tells, signs of strain. 3 hours passed. Then 4. The crowd had changed significantly. Morning classes were in session. So many students had left. But others had arrived during breaks, hearing about the contest and coming to see. News was spreading beyond the campus now. Some faculty members had started their own betting pool in the staff lounge. At the 5-hour mark, Tarvik made his first major adjustment. He shifted his stance slightly, moving his weight from his left leg to his right. It was a small movement, but everyone saw it. A murmur went through the crowd. Hannah didn't react. She stood as she had from the beginning, her weight balanced evenly, her posture relaxed but upright. She had learned something important years ago during a school trip where they hiked for hours. Tension was the enemy of endurance. The more you fought against your own body, the faster you tired. The key was to work with your body, not against it. 6 hours became 7. The dual suns moved across the sky. The temperature rose. Sweat began to show on Tarvik's scales, making them glisten. His breathing was noticeably heavier now. The crowd could see it, hear it. Hannah was sweating too, but she didn't fight it. Sweating was good. It meant her body was cooling itself, adapting to the conditions. She let it happen. At hour 8, Nari stood and approached with a water bottle. Hannah saw her coming and nodded slightly. Nari held the bottle up, and Hannah drank slowly, carefully. She didn't gulp. She just took what she needed. Then she returned to her stance, across the courtyard. Kresh did the same for Tarvik. But Tarvik drank more desperately, taking long pulls from the bottle. Water spilled down his chin, wetting his chest scales. "You're doing great," Kresh whispered. "Just a few more hours. She has to break soon." But Tarvik was starting to doubt that. His legs ached in a way he'd never experienced. It was a deep, burning pain that seemed to spread through his muscles like fire. His knees felt unstable, as if they might buckle at any moment. His back hurt. His feet hurt. Everything hurt. How was the human still standing so calmly? 9 hours. 10 hours. The crowd had grown again. Classes were ending, and students were flooding into the courtyard. The news had spread across the entire campus and beyond. Some students were watching via live stream in their dorms. Messages were being sent to other planets, other universities. A human is challenging a Velthran in a standing contest. Professor Qualinus had been monitoring the contest all day. She approached the medical staff stationed nearby. "How are they doing?" she asked quietly. The lead medic, a Qualix named Tarn, checked his scanners. "The Velthran is showing high levels of muscle stress and fatigue. His heart rate is elevated. He's in pain, but not in danger yet. And the human?" Tarn looked at his scanner again, as if not quite believing what he was seeing. "Her vitals are remarkably stable. Heart rate slightly elevated but steady. Muscle stress present but manageable. She's tired, but nowhere near her limit." Professor Qualinus looked at Hannah with new respect. Maybe the rumors about Deathworlders weren't exaggerations after all. Hour 11 arrived. Tarvik's body was screaming at him to stop. Every part of his Velthran warrior training told him to push through, to ignore the pain, to stand firm. But there was a difference between training pain and this kind of suffering. This wasn't just discomfort. This was his body telling him it couldn't continue. He looked at Hannah for the first time in hours. She stood there, still and calm, like standing was the most natural thing in the world. Her face showed concentration, but not agony. Not the torture he was feeling. How? The question burned in his mind. How was this possible? Hour 12 came and went. The suns began their descent toward the horizon. Long shadows stretched across the courtyard. The air cooled slightly, which was a relief to both contestants, but especially to Tarvik. His legs shook now. Small tremors ran through his muscles. He tried to hide it, tried to maintain his warrior stance, but his body wouldn't cooperate anymore. His arms had long since dropped from their crossed position. They hung at his sides, too heavy to lift. Hannah noticed the shaking. She felt sympathy for Tarvik, but she couldn't let that make her soft. This was important. Not just for her, but for every human who would come after her to this university. She had to see this through. At hour 13, Hannah shifted her weight slightly, letting blood flow to different parts of her legs. It was a technique she'd learned without knowing she was learning it. Years of standing at bus stops, waiting in lines, hiking with her grandmother. Her body knew how to do this. It was in her DNA, passed down from ancestors who chased antelope across endless plains, who walked from Africa to every corner of Earth, who never stopped moving, never stopped surviving. Tarvik saw her shift and felt a moment of hope. Was she weakening? But no. When she settled again, she looked just as steady as before. Maybe more so. Hour 14. Tarvik's vision started to blur. The pain in his legs had gone beyond burning. Now they felt numb, dead weight attached to his body. His knees locked to keep him upright, but he knew that couldn't last. Locked knees meant reduced blood flow. Reduced blood flow meant collapse. The crowd had grown silent. Everyone could see that the end was near, but they weren't sure who would fall first. Hannah closed her eyes for a moment, centering herself. She thought about her grandmother, who could work in rice fields from dawn until dusk, bent over, standing in mud, never complaining. She thought about her mother, who stood behind a shop counter 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. She thought about every human who had ever endured, who had ever survived when survival seemed impossible. She opened her eyes. The courtyard came back into focus. The crowd, the worried faces of her friends. The struggling form of Tarvik across from her. Hour 15 approached. Tarvik's legs trembled violently now. Everyone could see it. Some in the crowd looked away, uncomfortable watching his suffering. Others leaned forward, knowing the end was coming. And then, at hour 15 and 43 minutes, Tarvik's legs finally gave out. Tarvik felt his right knee buckle first. He tried to catch himself, tried to force his leg to straighten, but his muscles wouldn't respond. For a terrifying moment, he swayed in his circle, arms windmilling, fighting against gravity. He caught himself. Somehow, drawing on reserves he didn't know he had, Tarvik locked his knees again and stayed upright. But everyone had seen. Everyone knew. The crowd gasped and then fell completely silent. The medical staff stood ready, prepared to rush in if he fell. Professor Qualinus watched intently, her four hands gripping each other with concern. Tarvik stood there, breathing hard, his whole body shaking. Across from him, Hannah remained steady. She had seen him almost fall, but she didn't celebrate or mock. She just kept standing, waiting. How? Tarvik whispered. His voice was hoarse, barely audible. But in the silence of the courtyard, some people heard it. How are you still standing? Hannah heard the question. She thought about not answering, about just remaining silent. But there was real confusion in his voice, real need to understand. And she realized that this moment wasn't just about winning. It was about teaching. Earth doesn't let you quit, she said. Her voice was quiet but clear. You adapt or you die. That's how life works on a Class 12 Deathworld. She paused, gathering her thoughts, then continued. My ancestors hunted animals by chasing them. Not for minutes, for hours. Sometimes days. The prey was faster, but we just kept following. We walked, we jogged, we never stopped. Eventually, the prey collapsed from exhaustion. That's who we are. That's what Earth made us. Tarvik listened, his mind trying to process this information through the fog of pain and fatigue. But you're so small, he managed to say. Size doesn't matter for endurance, Hannah replied. My grandmother worked in fields all day, every day. My mother stood in her shop for 12 hours at a time. Standing? This is nothing special for a human. This is just normal. The crowd heard this exchange. Many of the aliens looked at each other with new understanding. Some looked frightened. The Deathworld girl wasn't boasting. She was just stating facts. And the facts were terrifying. Hour 16 passed. Then 17. Tarvik was still standing, but barely. His eyes were glazed. His breathing came in harsh gasps. His scales had lost their shine completely, turning a dull gray-green that showed extreme stress. Sweat poured off him in rivers. The medical staff watched their monitors with growing alarm. His muscle tissue is beginning to break down. Tarn said quietly to Professor Qualinus, "If he doesn't stop soon, he could suffer permanent damage." "Can we intervene?" the professor asked. "Not unless he falls or asks to stop." Those are the rules he agreed to. Professor Qualinus looked troubled, but nodded. Kresh stood near Tarvik's circle, his hands clenched into fists. He wanted to tell his friend to stop, to surrender, to save himself. But he knew Tarvik wouldn't listen. Pride and honor meant everything to a Velthran warrior. Giving up was worse than death. Hour 18 arrived. The suns had set now. Artificial lights illuminated the courtyard, casting strange shadows. More students had arrived. The crowd had grown to nearly 1,000 beings, all watching in fascinated silence. Hana's legs burned. Her back ached. Her feet hurt. She was tired, deeply tired, in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. But she had been tired before. She had felt this way during the hiking trip in the mountains, during the long summer festivals, during winter mornings waiting for transportation. Her body knew this feeling. And more importantly, her body knew that this feeling would pass. It always did. You just had to keep going. She thought about water. Nari approached with another bottle, and Hana drank. The water was cool and sweet. It helped. Not much, but enough. Across the courtyard, Tarvik swayed again. This time, he couldn't quite catch himself. He stumbled sideways, his foot crossing the white line of his circle. Medical staff rushed forward, but he pushed them back weakly and stumbled back into position. "No," he gasped. "Not yet. Not yet." But his body was done. At hour 18 and 27 minutes, Tarvik's legs buckled completely. He fell forward, catching himself on his hands and knees. The moment his knees touched the ground, a horn sounded across the courtyard. Medical staff swarmed him immediately. They had him on a stretcher within seconds, checking his vitals, administering fluids and medications. Tarvik tried to protest, tried to stand again, but his body simply wouldn't respond. "Let them help you," Kresh said, running to his friend's side. "You did well. You lasted 18 hours. That's incredible." "But I lost," Tarvik whispered. "I lost to a human." "No," Kresh said gently. "You lost to a Deathworlder. There's a difference." The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Some stood in shocked silence. Others began talking excitedly, discussing what they had just witnessed. The betting pools were being settled. Money and credits changed hands across the campus, but Hana wasn't done. She could have stepped out of her circle the moment Tarvik fell. She had won. The contest was over, but she wanted to make a point. She needed everyone to understand that this wasn't luck, wasn't a fluke. This was what humans could do. So she kept standing. Hour 19 passed. The crowd grew quiet again, watching the human girl who stood alone in her circle, still calm, still steady. Some of the aliens looked at her with fear now. Others with respect. A few with something like awe. Hour 20 arrived. Hana decided that was enough. She had made her point. She stepped out of her circle, and the moment she did, her legs almost gave out. She had pushed them harder than she thought. Nari was there instantly, supporting her, helping her to a chair. "You did it," Nari whispered. "You showed them." Hana nodded, too tired to speak. Medical staff approached, but she waved them off. She was tired and sore, but she was fine. Her body just needed rest. Professor Qualinus approached with several other faculty members. That was remarkable, Miss Kim, the professor said. I have never seen anything quite like it. Thank you, Professor, Hana managed to say. I think perhaps we have all underestimated what it means to be a Deathworlder, the professor continued. This will be studied, discussed, written about. You have done something significant here today. Hannah wanted to say that she hadn't done anything special. She had just stood still, but she was too tired for that conversation. Instead, she just nodded and let Nari help her back toward their dormitory as they walked through the crowd. Students moved aside to let them pass. Some reached out to touch Hana's shoulder or arm, gestures of respect from their various cultures. Others simply stared, trying to reconcile the small, tired human girl with the incredible feat they had just witnessed. Jinho and Yuna joined them, helping support Hana as they walked. The whole galaxy is going to hear about this, Jinho said. Messages are already going out to other universities, other planets. Good, Yuna added. Let them know. Let them all know what humans can do. Behind them, in the medical center, Tarvik lay on a bed, his body being treated for severe muscle fatigue and dehydration. His pride was wounded worse than his body. He stared at the ceiling, replaying the contest in his mind. Kresh sat beside him. Don't torture yourself, he said. You gave everything you had. It wasn't enough, Tarvik said quietly. She's half my size and she outlasted me by hours. What does that say about me? About us? It says that humans are different, Kresh replied. It says that we have a lot to learn about Deathworlders. And maybe that's not a bad thing. Tarvik was silent for a long moment. Then he said, I want to talk to her. Tomorrow, when I can move again. I want to understand. Hannah woke up the next morning, feeling like she had been hit by a truck. Every muscle in her body ached. Her legs were stiff and sore. Even her feet hurt. She lay in bed for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling. Before forcing herself to sit up, Nari was already awake, sitting at her desk with her datapad. She looked up when Hannah moved. How do you feel? Like I stood in one place for 20 hours. Hannah replied with a small smile. How bad is it out there? Define bad, Nari said. She turned her datapad so Hannah could see the screen. It was filled with messages, news articles, and forum discussions. You're famous. The story is everywhere. 7 different news networks have asked for interviews. The Galactic Collegiate Institute's main page has your picture on it. And someone made a compilation video of Tarvik falling, and you just standing there. It's been viewed 2 million times. Hannah groaned and fell back onto her pillow. I just wanted to prove a point. You proved it, Nari said. Maybe too well. Some of the aliens are scared now. The forums are full of people talking about how dangerous humans are. That's not what I wanted, Hannah said quietly. I don't want them to be scared. I want them to understand. There was a knock at their door. Nari got up to answer it. Professor Qualinas stood there, along with a medical assistant. Miss Kim, the professor said. I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wanted to check on your condition and discuss something with you. Hannah sat up properly, trying to look more alert than she felt. Please, come in. The medical assistant quickly checked Hannah's vitals while Professor Qualinas spoke. First, I want to commend you on your achievement. What you did yesterday was extraordinary. However, I also want to discuss the impact it's having on campus culture. I've heard I'm scaring people, Hannah said. Some, yes, the professor admitted. But others are fascinated. Inspired, even. You've shown that humans are capable of remarkable endurance. But more than that, you've challenged many assumptions about physical capability and species strengths. The medical assistant finished her scan. Remarkably, you're in good health. Muscle soreness and fatigue, but nothing serious. Your species recovers quickly. Thank you, Hannah said. After the medical assistant left, Professor Qualinus continued. There's someone who wishes to speak with you. Tarvik. He's in the medical center, recovering. He asked specifically to see you. You're under no obligation to go, of course. Hannah thought about it. I'll go. Give me an hour to clean up and have breakfast. Of course. I'll let him know. After the professor left, Hannah showered and dressed carefully. Every movement reminded her of yesterday's contest, but movement was actually helping. Her muscles were loosening up, the stiffness fading. She ate a large breakfast in the dining hall, ignoring the stares from other students. Jingho joined her at her table. How are you feeling? Sore, but okay. You? I'm not the one who stood for 20 hours, Jingho pointed out. But I'm good. Proud, actually. What you did yesterday. It means something for all of us. That's what I keep hearing, Hannah said. It's true. Yesterday, we were just exchange students. Today, we're Deathworlders. That label comes with respect. Hannah nodded slowly. She finished her breakfast and made her way to the medical center. The building was quiet, with soft lighting and calm atmosphere. A nurse directed her to Tarvik's room. She knocked softly and entered when she heard a response. Tarvik lay in a bed, his scales still a dull color, but looking better than yesterday. He tried to sit up when she entered, but she gestured for him to stay down. Don't hurt yourself, she said, pulling a chair close to his bed. How are you feeling? Like I stood for 18 hours and then collapsed, Tarvik said. There was no anger in his voice, just exhaustion and maybe a bit of embarrassment. The doctors say I'll recover fully in a few days. They said I'm lucky I didn't cause permanent damage to my legs. I'm glad, Hannah said, and she meant it. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Tarvik spoke. I need to understand. Please, tell me about Earth. Tell me why you could do what I couldn't. Hannah settled into her chair. Earth is classified as a Class 12 Deathworld for good reasons. The temperature can swing by more than 50 degrees in a single day in some places. We have storms that can destroy entire cities, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, droughts. And that's just the planet itself. She continued. Then there are the other life forms. Predators that hunt in packs. Diseases that spread like wildfire. Parasites. Venomous creatures. Plants that can kill you if you touch them. Even the air can be dangerous in some places. Tarvik listened, his eyes wide. Humans survived all of that, Hannah said. Not because we were the strongest or the fastest. We're not. There are animals on Earth that can kill a human easily. But we survived because we were stubborn. Because we refused to give up. Because when every other option was gone, we just kept going. Endurance, Tarvik said quietly. Endurance, Hannah confirmed. We're persistence hunters. Our ancestors would chase prey for hours, sometimes days. The animal would be faster, but it couldn't maintain that speed. Eventually, it would collapse from heat exhaustion or fatigue. Then we could catch it. That's terrifying, Tarvik said. Maybe, Hannah agreed. But it's also who we are. We don't give up. We can't. It's in our DNA. Tarvik was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I challenged you because I thought humans were weak. That the stories about Deathworlders were exaggerations. I was wrong. I apologize. Apology accepted, Hannah said. But I want you to understand something. I didn't beat you yesterday because humans are superior. I beat you because the contest played to human strengths. If we had raced or fought, you probably would have won. Every species has different strengths. Yours is explosive power. Mine is endurance. That's generous of you to say, Tarvik said. But I still lost. You lasted 18 hours, Hannah pointed out. That's impressive by any measure. Most beings couldn't do that. You should be proud. Tarvik looked surprised. You think so? I know so. You pushed yourself to your absolute limit. That takes courage and strength. The only difference is that my limit was higher for this specific thing. They talked for another hour. Tarvik asked questions about Earth, and Hana answered them honestly. She described the diverse environments, the many challenges humans faced, the ways they adapted. She told him about her grandmother and the rice fields, her mother and the shop, the hiking trips, and the festival lines. When she finally left, Tarvik felt different. The humiliation was still there, but it was smaller now, replaced partly by understanding and partly by respect. Over the next few days, things changed at the Galactic Collegiate Institute. The human students noticed it immediately. Aliens who had avoided them before now approached with questions. Some wanted to know about Earth. Others wanted to learn about human physical training methods. A few even asked if they could exercise with the humans, to see what Deathworlder training was like. Hannah became something of a celebrity, though she didn't enjoy it. She preferred to focus on her studies. But she also recognized that this attention came with responsibility. She and the other human students started holding informal information sessions, teaching their classmates about Earth and human capabilities. Professor Qualinus incorporated the standing contest into her xenobiology curriculum as a case study in evolutionary adaptation. She used it to teach students about how environment shapes biology, how different survival strategies emerge on different worlds. 2 weeks after the contest, Hannah received a message on her datapad. It was from the Galactic Athletic Commission. They were organizing something called the Interspecies Endurance Games, a series of competitions designed to test long-distance running, swimming, and other endurance-based activities. They wanted human participants. Hana forwarded the message to Nari, Jinho, Yuna, and Desung with a simple question. Interested? The responses came quickly. All of them said yes. That evening, Hana stood at the window of her dormitory room, looking out at the alien sky. 3 moons hung above the horizon, casting silver light across the campus. She thought about home, about Earth, about how far humanity had come. They had left their planet and ventured into the galaxy, not knowing what they would find. They had been called Deathworlders, a term meant to inspire fear. But Hannah was beginning to see it differently. Yes, they came from a dangerous world. Yes, they had capabilities that other species found frightening. But those capabilities were born from adaptation, from survival, from the fundamental human refusal to give up. Her datapad chimed. Another message from the Athletic Commission, confirming registration details. Below that, a message from Tarvik. He had been released from medical care and wanted to meet for lunch to discuss Velthran combat training techniques. He thought Hana might be interested in learning them, and in exchange, he wanted to learn about human endurance training. Hana smiled. This was how it should be. Not humans dominating others, but humans learning from others and teaching in return. Building bridges instead of walls. She typed quick replies to both messages and set her datapad aside. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, new opportunities. But tonight, she was content to stand at her window and look at the stars, thinking about the journey that had brought her here and the journey still to come. Earth had prepared her well. Not just her body, but her spirit. The ability to endure, to persist, to keep standing when